Greetings, superb people. I am not sure if this is coming in on the initial live stream that I had, what do you call, reserved to be in the space for today. And as you may know, this is my first time working with doing live streams, so hopefully it's going through. And if there are people looking for the live stream, this is it. And unfortunately, it's possible I may have not linked it with the proper initial posting that was set up a while ago. So hopefully, if you're on the other viewing, that it works. So let's see here. All right, so this is Lanita Superb. This is my fitness model drawing. This is what I use to remind me of who I have become, and also how superbly awesome I am and will become in the future, as long as I continue to move forward with this superb lifestyle transition. So yesterday I went over the first two intro basics to the superb lifestyle transition course, and today is number 3. I will be going over number 3, and number 3 is about you learning from everything around you, or you using life as your teacher, observing everything and learning from it, and that's also including observing yourself. So also I want to add that the interview with Dr. Daniels is going to be at 1 p.m. Mountain Time, so it's about an hour and 45 minutes from now. So hopefully what I'm talking about will give people enough time to get prepared so that they can get on and hear what Dr. Daniels has to say. We are going to be discussing information about the medical industry and her experience with her career as a medical doctor, and how that has led her to be aware of some things about the industry that the masses were not aware of. So she's going to be sharing with us some of those details. And it's some of the things that I've also been talking about, but it's a little bit more, It's a little bit more credible when you're hearing it from an actual doctor and the story behind it and what she had experienced. So I've invited her to join me and do just a brief interview. Like I said, that's at 1 p.m. Mountain Time. So if you know anyone that's interested in learning more about the medical system, or they're having a concern about possibly their own doctor and would like to know what is really going on with this medical field and the medical industry, we're going to get the scoop from a real doctor, and Dr. Daniels will be speaking with me shortly here. So in the meantime, yesterday I talked about keeping your records, and just to go over what the first 3 basics are, because it's the third day for the SupHerb Spring Cleanse Event, and like I said, the third one. Number 1, first of all, is who are you listening to and getting your knowledge from? And we went over the basics about that, because obviously, say for instance with the cleanse, if you're getting advice from someone who's never done a cleanse, not the best way to go about it. So if you're someone who maybe has a personal trainer, or if you're getting information from someone who says they're a consultant, if they've never actually done a cleanse, it's not going to really do you any good, because they are not able to offer you truthful and honest information about a cleanse, because they're just reading, and it's like hearsay, back in high school, or elementary school, he said, she said, it's gossip. So that's the number one intro basic. And I use that because if you get information from the wrong sources, you're just going to continue to do things in that fashion, which is obviously not going to yield you results. You may get close to some results, but to be right on point with what you're wanting to do, it makes sense for you to work with someone who's actually gone through the process. Now, number two is keeping your records. That's what yesterday was. You have to forgive me here for a moment. I mentioned yesterday also that I'm doing a fast for 14 days, a fast from solid foods, which just leaves me water to drink. And with that, I am in the middle of day 2, which is somewhere around 36 to 40 hours with only consuming water. So when this process with the fast, because your body is beginning to move things around and out of your system so that it can start to eliminate the waste, because there's no nutrition and there's no food to digest. So when you're not actually digesting food, your body is actually removing waste. So because that's what it does. If there's no food in your system, it's removing waste and replacing cells and such. So I may be a little kind of confused, sort of speak. I just kind of feel like I'm slightly drunk without the actual alcohol drunkenness and the such and so forth. But what I was saying about keeping your records is yesterday I promised to show you my Now notebook, and I have it available now to show you. So here's the Now notebook. That's what it looks like. And you can order the Now notebook from my website, SupHerbBlends.com. That's SupHerblendz.com. And when you get the book, I've actually included the 16-week SupHerb Lifestyle Transition course with the book. So you're not just ordering, pretty much a blank notebook. There's actual photos and inspirational things inside the book that are set up to aid you with your journey. And you can get this in a paperback with color, or you can choose to have black and white with your paperback, or you can get the hardback book, which I have another book here as well, a hardback book. And then you can also get that one if your budget fits it with black and white. So you can choose hardback, softback, paperback, softback, paperback, or color or black and white. And then that will offer you the option so that you can customize the cost. And don't worry about me. I'll still get the same amount of profit from it. I set up the pricing to work that way, so it's set up more for you to fit your budget if you're not able to. So everyone's still getting the same cost. It's just your amenities and additives to the book that you would actually be paying extra for if you are able to do that. If you want to get color and have it in a hardback, you can do that, and you'll still get the full SupHerb Lifestyle Transition course to go along with it. So that's what the intros are for. This is just the intro, and this is not actually even included with the full course. This is for everybody. It's something I'm offering for free, and it's basically to prepare you for the process of doing the transition course through what I have offered in the SupHerb documents that you will receive. Not actually documents, it'll be more of the videos, and then I will also possibly be able to send you other information via email, and that is obviously once you purchase the Now notebook, or if you purchase a SupHerb basket. Now the SupHerb basket actually has all of the ingredients that would have that are aiding you for a mini cleansing, not a full fasting cleanse like I'm doing, but you don't want to shock your system by introducing too many changes at one time. So the idea is to do a little bit at a time, and then that way when you arrive at a moment when your body is prepared or when you are prepared for more cleansing, you are ready to do that. And that's the whole point of the intro basics, is to get you prepared to do your cleanse. Because a lot of people are out there talking about cleansing and fasting and such, and people think it's a trendy thing, but it's not a trend. It's actually an ancient form of health maintenance. And just like Dr. Daniels may explain to us, there's a lot of things that have been hidden from the masses of people so that the health industry or the medical industry are able to monetize. And I tell people to study yourself and then to study any sort of knowledge or information that you encounter so that you can confirm what is truth. Because just because I tell you something doesn't mean it may be true. You have to go and read it and find out about it and experience it yourself. So that's, like I said, that's what I encourage with who do you listen to and who do you model yourself after. And then, of course, keeping your records. Because when you're doing this research of trying to figure out who's telling the truth or not, it makes sense for you to keep some records. That's why you have the Now Notebook available to you, and you can use that and just use that specifically for when you're researching about cleansing or fasting or even just anything as far as your health goes. So that's the purpose of the notebook. And number 3, like I said, it's going to be about using life and using everything to observe yourself, make everything your teacher. And that could be what people call either good or bad. It's not that it's necessarily good or bad, it's what you're labeling it as. So when you begin to observe everything around you and allow it to become a teacher to you, you are accepting that you are able and willing to learn from what your surroundings are showing you, right? So I'm going to need some water in a minute, but I just got out of the shower not too long ago. That was actually quite refreshing, so I'm happy about that. um, so anyway, so yeah, number 3, like I said, and part of the surroundings is reason why I was mentioning water is because since I'm in the middle of this beginning of this fast, it's actually really beneficial and a great idea to be outside in natural surroundings. And since I'm going to be doing the interview with Dr. Daniels, I'm going to do that inside because I don't want to risk any disconnections or anything like that. So I'm going to be here next to the computer and with the electrical current flowing through the wall. And that way we can assure that that connection, unless, the powers that be, the universe decides that, hey, for some reason, we need to intervene. But that's what I'm going to do. So let's go for a short travel here. I am actually going to, I'm going to turn off the mic for a moment, and that way you don't hear a bunch of shuffling and rustling as I make my way outside. You'll see the images of me doing that, but we're not going to, and you can also take a little break here to go get yourself some water, and I'm going to go into the information about number 3, allowing life to be your teacher. So hold on a moment. Follow me out. All right, I turned the mic back on. I think I did. I will, it's a bit chill, so I need to put some extra, there we go, that should be good. All right. All right. So I guess we can continue. Get to reposition the mic now. And that should help out. All right. So where was I? Yes, the number 3 is about allowing your environment to be your teacher. And a big part of allowing your self to be the student of your environment, that is actually quite, I guess you would say, a humbling experience, because the purpose of allowing your environment to teach you is because that's what it's doing. It's actually teaching you. So when you're in the observation mode or in the mode of a student, you're capable of being aware that that is actually what's going on. Now, why that is important is because the universe is constantly sending us messages. Like, for instance, my surroundings where I am right now. It's direct, or not even so much my surroundings where I am, but just what I'm experiencing. And I'm experiencing that within me, because even if you were standing here next to me, you would be perceiving something slightly different, but yet we are still in the same environment. And our perception comes from within us. So in the process of going through this fast right now, because I have cut off the nutrients within, there's things going on inside. They're like, uh-oh, what's going on? So I have to be conscious and aware and observe what's also going on around me, which will aid the comprehension of what I'm actually dealing with. So by putting myself in a calming, relaxing environment that allows the system to also be connected with this calm, relaxing environment, and thus you will enjoy the experience in such a fashion. In this, I guess passion may not be the right word, but in such a way that you are able to ingest what is surrounding you with a different perspective. So that's the wind is blowing my books open. So what goes on with observing your surroundings too? Like I said, I have my notebook, and I was gathering a few of them before I came out, because I wanted to possibly show you some things that I wrote about in the past while I was not fully aware that I was going to be doing a transition. But I knew that I was going to need this information at some point in time. So years ago, I forced myself to write in the journal And I actually made the journal. I'll show you. This was the first journal I made, and it's got some cloth on it. And I made a little, there's my little insignia or signature thing that I use. And then it's just blank pages. And then I go through and sometimes I would use different pen colors to emphasize, like feelings and such and so forth. And it's just a small basic book. This was the very first time I made a book myself, and I just went online and researched bookmaking. So basically, all it is just a bunch of white pages folded up. It's called signatures, is what you create. And then I actually took some sewing thread and sewed it into the thread. And then I also went about the process of putting the signatures together to make a full, I forget what it's called, a full, not like a ream of paper, but a full book. And then I had to use some adhesive to get the fabric to stick to the cardboard. And then I had to figure out how to attach the end pages to the cardboard without, with the proper folding mechanism, how it folds when you open the book. The cover actually moves. So I had to figure out how to get the end pages attached without ripping them. And then my second book, which I got a little more creative and I put some shells on it and a strap. I noticed the first year that sometimes it was more beneficial if I had a way to carry the book, but the next year I added a strap to it, and that strap actually wraps around and it keeps the book from opening accidentally. And that allowed me to be able to carry little papers, things like if I was getting notes, I could carry those inside. So let me see if I have some, as they're all falling out now, but I had some notes. And as you see, I didn't do too well getting this one to attach properly, but the notes stay inside when the book is closed, and then it's not an issue. So this book was a little bit thicker, as you see here, than the first one. I realized that after a while, I said, well, maybe I need a thicker book because I had gotten so trained, I trained myself so well at writing in the journal that I needed more pages. Oops. Let's see if I can get that. I needed more pages to make it through, and my intention was to do it so that I could that each book would last about a year, and that's kind of like creating a chapter, sort of to speak. So that's what the book looks like. In case anyone wants to make your own book, just like, and then of course in the middle of all that, that's when I came about creating the Now Notebook, because it's very time consuming to create your own book. You have to, the actual cover is what took a lot of energy, because I had to put the glue on and then set it up with books on top and the bottom, like an extra weight, so that it caused the weight so that the fabric would stick properly to the cardboard. And then once that dried, which took about a day or two, I then had to, and then I had to do the front and the back separately, because they're connected, it's all connected to the same fabric. So you do one piece at a time. And then I had to do the end pages, and I had to get creative with putting in a piece of plastic bag that I cut so that it didn't stick to the other pages, and then weighted it and allowed that to sit for a short period of time. So it took about a week to make each book. And like I said, I only had to do that once a year, but I do have a third book. I did not bring that out, and all I changed with that one is the cover. I made it a dual tone, so it's in duality. It's the same color, and then I added a purple fabric, the same type of fabric design, what do you call it? Corduroy. And that one came out well also. So now I'm currently just using a, a donated book, which was blank pages, and it's working out well. However, I believe that I can feel my own energy from the creation of the other three books that I made myself. So since I'm nearing the end of the other notebook, I will actually go through and I'm going to make my own book again for this next chapter instead of actually using a book that I did not make. So I'll have to do a video on how I make that next book when I get around to it. Should probably be in another week or two because the other book is getting low on pages, and I've done that once where I waited too late to get a new book source, and then I had to use loose leaf paper, and then I ended up putting it into a 3-ring binder, but then that wasn't very easy to carry around. So I like the idea of creating my own book at the size I want it to be, which is pretty much the same size as the Now notebook. It's 6 by 9, so it's very easy to carry around, and a lot more. So that incorporates into the allowing the environment to be your teacher, because with making the book, I learned some things about myself because, like I said, it took some time and energy to go about making this book. So I actually had to think about what fabric I was using and the type of glue and how many pages I wanted in each signature, considering that the idea was to make the book so that it would last me a year. So there was a lot of thought, and that I observed other people, of course, whom do not use a book, and how my life is much different from theirs because I do utilize the book. And people may think that keeping a journal or a diary is just for girls or babies or whomever, or for scientists in the laboratory. I, I'm not going to beg to differ, but as they would say, I disagree. I think everyone should make use of a journal or a diary for the purpose of, like I said, for keeping their own records about their life and their lifestyle. And it also assists you when you're when you're in the process of working towards a goal. So the idea is that you are working towards something, right? You got a goal and you want to, let's say, for instance, for me, okay, and this would be the first time that I've kind of mentioned it, but I would like to have a vehicle to travel in, which I can also transport some herbs and some plant life and carry that with me. So what I'm working on is having a vehicle with this special design, so I get to design what goes on the inside. And to do that, I need to generate currency, and then I need to find the specific vehicle that fits my needs. And it has to obviously meet some standards, because if I'm going to be traveling around, it needs to have a really good engine or just be in newer condition. And it has to be something that's quite easy if something does break down, because I have quite a bit of knowledge about how the vehicle works and taking care of things. Since a lot of my traveling across the country I did alone, so I would need to know, like I know how to change a tire and I know how to change brakes. Granted, you need someone to help you usually when you're changing brakes, but you can do it alone. Just basic tune-up things like changing spark plugs, the air filter, and light bulbs, checking the electrical system, fuses, the oil, making sure that all that stays topped off, and all the other fluids, and how to be able to know what is causing an issue when a light goes off, or if the vehicle starts to give you information. This is how you're learning from your environment. The vehicle, if it's not operating properly, let's say you're driving along in the vehicle and it's doing, like, let's say it's shimmying or something, and you're sitting there trying to figure out, okay, well, what's causing that issue? So usually it's probably just a tire issue, or maybe something with the steering or the steering wheel. But in order for you to know that, you would have to observe, and you would have to observe often. And then when you're observing things, it helps for you to write those notes down. And just in case you don't completely remember everything, but if you're writing notes, you're actually capable of going back and looking through those notes and be like, oh yeah, that's what was going on when this happened before. And that's basically how we should be teaching ourselves, and it's also through repetition as well, which makes a lot of sense. You keep doing something over and over again, you become better at it. Just like driving a car, you always get in the vehicle, and you know where the signals are, and you know how to steer, and how the vehicle handles when you're going different speeds, and how it brakes and such and so forth. So then when there is an issue, you'll be able to identify what could possibly be causing the issue, just because you're repeatedly in the vehicle observing its operations. Yes, makes sense. So back to my vehicle. So the purpose, like I said, of that vehicle is to obviously go further with continuing to help the SupHerb people with this lifestyle transition. And what I would like to do, what I'm working towards as my goal, which is why we need to let our environment teach us, is so that we can see how nature works, and how your surroundings are harmonizing with you. So let's say here with the greenhouse, for instance, when I first built the greenhouse, it was not a greenhouse that was made for winter use. And at the beginning, that was a little challenging to figure out ways to get it insulated, or just basically put plants out there that was obviously cold weather plants, which is what I did. But it still needed to be insulated, because just because they're cold weather plants doesn't mean they like to be froze to death, literally. So I had to get creative, and I decided to insulate the greenhouse with bubble wrap and plastic. And some people say, oh, plastic is bad. Oh, that depends. I'm not eating the plastic, and it's being used for a purpose. It's not like floating freely around the ocean. This is me here using it. So when I'm done with it, I will obviously dispose of it in such a way where it would either be utilized again, or repurposed or recycled in some way, shape, or form. So it's also about your perception. Like I was saying, something may be good or bad, but that's you putting a label to it. So it just is what it is. It's plastic. And right now, it has made the transition over the winter a great and wonderful asset for me, because I've been able to live off of some of the kale and the chard and milk thistle that I've been growing inside of the greenhouse, as well as it's given a home for the jungle peanuts and a few beets. So that's the positivity that has evolved from using this plastic, which some people may call not the best thing, but it is what it is. So with my plan, like I was saying, observing the environment, had I not been paying attention to what was going on within the greenhouse before it was insulated, like how the structure was put together, what it felt like when I was inside during the day and at night, the type of strength that it had, how it holds up to the wind, and when I observed all of that, that's how I was able to figure out that, yeah, bubble wrap may actually work. So I did some more research because I initially heard about it a while ago. But I did some more research and watched a few other YouTube videos and people talking about it. And they all had a lot of success with it. So that's how I decided to use it. And considering the winter was obviously getting colder and not warmer, I had to do something, or else the purpose of having a winter greenhouse was going to be null and void. So my team and I, we worked together and got that going, and it turned out to be very successful. There is a wood stove heater inside as well, and we worked together to keep that operating properly throughout the winter season so that I was uh, successful with this venture. And we will obviously be making some adjustments for next winter, being that this was our first experience with having a winter greenhouse in this environment, in this climate. So that went with the observing. Like I said, now that we've observed the winter, we will be at a better able to prepare for the next season of winter. And going into the spring with a plan in place to be able to grow more fruits and vegetables in this climate. So, like I was saying, the whole point of the transition course is to prepare you working towards a specific goal, which is your transition. And right now, part of my transition is getting food grown by myself for myself, and with that, I will have better nutritional value from what I'm consuming. And it also teaches me about the natural environment and ways for me to move forward with sharing that information to others. Being that this movement towards healing self is becoming a global movement, and a lot more people are hearing about it. It's not necessarily so much trendy anymore, but it's becoming aware to people that this is happening now. This is what's going on. And if you are someone who wants to, I guess, you live in your own world and you have gotten some information from some sources that may claim for this to be just a trend, then go ahead and you listen to those sources. And as time goes on, if you do not observe your environment, you may be caught in a situation that has been created by you and your information from your sources. So you see how this is all working together, You got to have the right sources to listen to and follow and to get information and knowledge from in the first place. And then if you're keeping track of those sources and that information, that will lead you on a path that you have chosen to go on. So if you continue to listen to a source that's only motive is for deception or monetary purposes, then you end up in a situation later where you're just feeding your energy into that source's purpose, which may not be ultimately your purpose, but because you were following along, that's where you ended up. Let's see, what else? Back to the environment. So I just have to look around and take a moment sometimes, because I grew up in Jersey, New Jersey, and it's mostly city life. So there was a time, a part of my high school years, when I was living in the suburbs, and it was a bit different, but it was still the city. There were still like large shopping malls and things nearby with a lot of traffic, and an expressway or highway. As you hear a vehicle going by now, that's the road, but it's that maybe one of few vehicles that go by. So it's not the same. And just being able to take in the change that I have created as far as the situation and what I wanted, which was to be in this type of environment. I wanted to get out of the city. I wanted to, you know, have a garden and be able to have the time to tend to it and learn from it and join new traditions and cultures and other places to live where people do things differently than just what goes on in the city. So that's also about observing your environment. At one point in time, I was just like, this is cool and all, but I would love to be, where there's more trees or where I'm able to have a little more privacy and space between the neighbor, and not just live in a box, an apartment building or something, which limits your actual spiritual expansion because you're in close quarters with everyone else all the time. So you kind of have to, your energy is being intertwined with everyone else's energy. And that is part of the big movement with people in general, and why everyone is wanting to, go off the grid and, live in nature and, vegan and vegetarian, which is not necessarily the ultimate goal, but it can be part of the transition. There are obviously benefits for being vegan or vegetarian and not eating flesh, which comes from you learning about some specifics on the purpose of doing that and what is actually going on within the body when you do eat flesh, as opposed to when someone does not. And a lot of meat eaters will get a little they may get a little tense at this, but there's a reason why you have a hard time listening to someone just talk about it. I'm just talking about not eating meat, and you may be sitting there cringing or, oh no, I'm not doing that. Okay, well, that's you. That's on you. But it doesn't mean that you shouldn't learn about how the meat or the flesh is affecting your body. Because if you did, you may think twice about what you're doing. And it's not necessarily even about the cruelty to the animal. It goes even deeper. It's just like, would you eat your own child just because that's the only meat you had available? Probably not. But ultimately, you're eating some animal's child. It may not be your child, but it's a child of an animal. And since we humans are a part of nature, we are animals too, you may want to think twice about that. Like I said, I'm not here to tell anyone what to eat and what not to eat. I'm just offering you some information to think about and to go and research on your own and see where that leads you. And like I said, if you're someone who is so caught up on, I must have my meat, then that's an addiction. That's just like a drug addict. Oh, I gotta have my drugs. Oh, I gotta have my cigarette. Oh, I gotta have my alcohol. That's an addiction. Oh, I gotta have my sugar. If you can't stop eating those things, or if you're not able to cut down or cut it out, that's an addiction. That's something else controlling you, because it's not you controlling it. That's you being controlled. So look into that. Check out, there's even some parasites that can get in your body that'll make you be an addict to something. And this is all about why I'm doing this fast. Not that I couldn't control myself, but every once in a while I would have these cravings for, for sugar mainly. And I thought I had gotten rid of a lot of that inside parasites that was connected to my sugar addiction. And that specifically through doing some of the cleansing methods that I had learned, specifically the one I learned from Dr. Daniels, which I will ask her questions about. And that's pure gum spirits of turpentine. And I'm not talking about the commercial turpentine you use to take off paint with. That's got chemicals in it. I'm talking about pure turpentine. What is pure turpentine? It comes from pine pine tree. So that's what I'm talking about. It's all natural and it's all pure. It's the stuff you buy in the store or the whatever place you get it from that has chemicals in it that are used for the purpose of stripping other chemicals. And part of the turpentine that's in it is basically more so used not necessarily for its medicinal purpose, but for its strength in general. So these industries, you have to understand that these manufacturing corporate industries, they have taken nature and the natural, uh, what is it? The natural gifts that everything in nature has to offer, like, just all the herbs and the plants and stuff. A lot of times they'll take those and then they'll mix them with a chemical, and that's how they end up being able to patent something. It's not because they've decided to use a certain herb and put it in there. They've patented it because they've added something to it, and that's what they're patenting. It's not the actual herb itself. And when people are ignorant to this truth, they think that, oh, so and so, you can't make that because so and so has a patent on. No, so and so has a patent on their specific name and their trademark and their formula. They don't have a patent on nature. They can't have a patent on nature. Are you going to patent something that grows naturally in the wild? It just grows naturally in the wild. There's nothing you can do about that, like grass, but when you get these scientists and people that work for these corporate manufacturing industrial places, they get them into the laboratory and now they've altered something. Now that's, like I said, it's altered. So it becomes something else. And it's no longer natural. It's just like these GMOs, genetically modified. Their genetics have been modified by humans. And since we humans, some of us work within this corporate system, we can now patent what we've altered because that is what the man's law is with keeping things in order. And that's why a lot of times doing patents and things like that costs money, because these large corporations and things, they don't want the little people making patents for things. They want to be able to collect all of the money and stuff for themselves. They want to capitalize on it. So they go and make this product that they take from nature. They pay some scientists or some people in a laboratory to alter it and change it up. And now they've made their own formula with extra additives. And then they run tests and things on them. And then they get people to voluntarily go through an experiment so that they can do some research on how this product reacts with the body. And then they keep their notes, they have a notebook, they take their notes, and then they go ahead and utilize that for their own monetary benefits, which is what's going on with all this corporate stuff. So the idea here is for us, the people, to get ourselves together so that we are actually the ones doing the manufacturing and the building and the creation, so that we can keep the wealth between ourselves, which is also another part of why this transition course exists. It exists because everyone has some sort of talent or unique purpose, which they are the only one who can actually provide that service. So when let's say, for instance, before I figured out what I was doing, I worked a job. And a lot of the time, the job was in a casino or a nightlife industry, like a nightclub or something. And I wasn't necessarily working for myself. I was working to make the money from the company by providing the services that I offered to this corporation. So it was a contract. I made a contract to do a specific job for this company, and they ultimately made even more money on top of what I was making. Now, not knowing that that's what was going on at the time, I was okay with getting paid what I was getting paid. But now, now that I am aware of this, I have no interest at all in doing any of that again. And that is how I came into this process of this lifestyle transition to just better health. Part of what was going on when I worked in the corporate world was my health was not in the best, it was not optimal. It was not the best health situation for me. Granted, you would get fed food, you have health insurance and all that other stuff, but if your health is 100% immunity all the time, do you need health insurance? I haven't been sick in over 5 years. I haven't needed to take any kind of medication because I don't. I stopped taking pharmaceutical medication. I can't even say the word. Pharmaceutical medication. Since what was the last time? I even stopped taking Tylenol and naproxen and stuff. Those things back, let's see, maybe 7 years ago. It was shortly after I went through that incident with the doctor, because that was the biggest wake up call. There was that this doctor had prescribed me some medicine that was supposed to make me better, and it made me pretty much go schizo. And I was like, okay, how does that work? And then, after you realize that there's all these side effects and things that come along um, with this medicine, it's like, okay, wouldn't I just be better off not taking the meds? And, you know, how's this working? So, like I said, once it became clear what was going on with the pharmaceuticals, I just dropped all that stuff and went about my business. Yeah. I hope I'm coming through well. I may possibly go back in because I'm getting a little chilly. And as I said, with the little fasting going on, the sun is warming me, but it's not warming me as much as I thought it was going to be. And because it's so windy, the greenhouse is, it's plastic. So it'll be a little rumbly, rusty, rumbling around noise in there, even though that would be warmer. However, I'm actually in the process of I'll go back inside here. I've got a little bit of sun. And after my interview with Dr. Daniels, I will come back out and enjoy some more sun. So, just to a brief review, the intro basics. Number one was, who do you listen to and model yourself after? Where are you getting your knowledge from? And two is about keeping your records so that you become the master of your life. And then the third one, as I was mentioning, is about you letting life become your teacher, your environment teach you. And so you are the observer. And this will give you even more mastery over self, because we are all the same, just in different bodies and going through different experiences at different times. So when you're able to observe as much as possible, you will see that you too are also a part of this. So I'm going to go ahead and head back inside. Probably because the wind is blowing my hand and my arms are getting a little tired of doing that. So let's head back in and we will continue. And what I'm going to do is get prepared for Dr. Daniel's interview. And I have a few questions formulated already for her, but I'm going to go over them with the purpose of explaining this lifestyle transition and the cleansing in a little more, more in depth, so that it's coming through clearly and is actually offering or giving people more information and knowledge in a proper fashion. Yep. All right. Let's head back in. See if I can do this mic thing again for a little bit, and let's go for a short walk. All right. So let me check to see if I got the mic on here. Ooh, in the pocket. All right, it is back on. And just like yesterday, I think that worked out well. Let me positioning the device here. There. Yeah, that works. And then you can see me without having to worry about what else is going on. Whew! Take me a minute here to warm up. It's getting quite chilly. So, also what I'm going to be doing is turning on my device over here, the computer, now notebook, the computer, and check out the YouTube and see why I was not able to actually go to the original live stream that I had set up for today. So I'll have to obviously do some editing and such afterwards, but that was I was supposed to, I had it set up so that it was pre-scheduled, and then what I wanted to do was just go back into the system and then utilize the pre-scheduled post, because I had put some information on there about Dr. Daniels and her website so that people can connect that way. And it's been up for a few days, so my intention was to be able to get that information out ahead of time and not just when I go live. This is all work in progress because, as I mentioned a few days ago, this is the first time that I've actually had the, I guess you can say the guts, but more so that I wasn't afraid to go ahead and go live. And the reason why I had been afraid of doing that is because of this. Not being quote unquote necessarily prepared. It's not that I'm prepared, it's just I've never done this before. So it's a whole new entity for me. And that's all about, that's how you get to where you're going. You have to experience it in order to be able to learn what it is that you need to learn. So just like I was saying about the whole cleanse, you know, if you get information from someone who's never done a cleanse, how could they possibly tell you what to expect or explain to you what needs to be done in this process of a cleanse? So in your journeys, people, superb people, because we are all superb, in this journey, it makes sense for you to follow people whom have done these things. And that's why I said, you know, who you model yourself after? Who do you mimic yourself? Who are you mimicking? Who are you getting your knowledge from? Where are you getting your knowledge from? Just because someone writes a book does not mean that it's going to offer you facts and truth in it, you know, because there's a lot of things that are nonfiction, and a lot of people read nonfiction and they get it in their head that, oh yeah, it's nonfiction, and then they attempt to put the nonfiction into the fiction world, and then it doesn't work. And then they wonder why they never get anywhere. Because you're in fantasy land. Fantasy land doesn't work in the physical, actual life that we are living here in these bodies. It's something a person imagined and conglomerated and then put it onto pages, you know, paper, and sent it out to people. And, you know, put a price on it just because they took their time to imagine something, which is great. You know, it's perfect. I have the idea of writing a book as well, but I would like for it to be truthful. And part of that is it may be a little difficult to put the two together. So you kind of have to meet them halfway, which is part of why I believe I'm going to write a book about Lenita Superb, and it's going to have to be more of a fantasy type thing, because even though it's fantasy, there are still messages within it that can be utilized in the fiction, not the fiction, can be utilized in the actual physical realm that we're living in these bodies. So, give me a minute here to bring up the YouTube. Yeah, so I just want to flash up there, Lanita SupHerb, Lanita SupHerb. Can you focus on that? Yeah, it's focusing a little bit. I had fun putting together the idea of this before I sent it off to the actual graphic designer. And as you can see, there's the shadow underneath. And the reason why I wanted it to be, have the transparency behind it so that I can utilize it for different things. But when I first made the business card, I didn't know what to utilize in the background. So what I did was I had to give myself some time to think about what it was, what kind of a background I wanted to put. And I'm still working on that. I had a couple of photos from me at the beach, and I might be able to put them up later to show, but it's going to be released when I get my book together and a couple of ebooks. So you'll see the Lanita SupHerb image will be able to be put in different cool nature backgrounds that come from the photographs and pictures that I've taken in my journey. So it's really fun and exciting because it's kind of funny, you know. It's you'll see. But it kind of just shows that my creativity for being able to change out the background so that it fits with everything that I'm sharing. And I like that idea because as the time goes on and the moments go by, there are always going to be different things, you know, to share. So that's what I'm all excited about. But yeah, we'll get to the next thing here shortly. I'm trying to think what exactly. So with Dr. Daniels, I came across her information maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and it was just in my usual research. Not sure exactly how her information came up, Dr. Jennifer Daniels, and it was obviously about cleansing, and then specifically about natural cleansing. And so something came up about the turpentine, and I was just like, what? And I didn't realize that there was a difference, between the commercialized turpentine and the real pure. And so that was where my research went. I actually ended up checking out, the ingredients in different turpentines so that I could see what was really going on with it. And then once I looked up the pure stuff, it was just, like I said, it explained what the pure turpentine is. It comes from the pine trees, the resin from the tree. And I was just like, oh, well, that makes sense. It's just like herbs and things, doing an extract or something, or the essential oils even. Same idea. But the reason why a lot of people are like, oh, no, that's poison, it'll kill you. Well, anything will kill you if you have too much of it. You drink too much water, you'll drown. People didn't know that until they had that incident with the whatever challenge it was with the drinking the water. So it's kind of silly for someone to say that, because that's what it is. It'll happen with anything. You drink too much alcohol, you can kill yourself. But most people are not aware. They just want to go and get wasted, which ultimately they do get wasted, and then they end up wasting their life and wasting their energy, and poor liver gets wasted, and then they wonder why later on they got issues. Oh, well, you wanted to get wasted, you got what you wanted, and now you're pissed off at who about it? You did it to yourself. And I know, because I did it to myself too. So there. Anybody who says that they're an alcoholic and they can't stop, bullshit. Just say it out loud. You can stop. You just don't want to. Or, not that you don't want to, it's just that you don't want to face the truth. That's actually what it is. You're scared. You're scared to death that you may actually have to face the truth. Yes, I said it. You're scared to death that you might actually have to face the truth, that it was all your fault. You did it to yourself. It was a huge awakening when I realized that I was the one that did everything to myself. I was the one that created the situation that I was in. I was the one that made me sad and feeling used and abused and whatever other word you can think of that goes with whatever people put with negative things. So, my purpose, that I had to realize what it was, is that at some point I was going to have to be able to be willing to share this experience and this information with people, because I feel that that was my purpose. I had to go through what I went through. I had to deal with it. There was no other way for me to know the truth about, being addicted to things if I had not been addicted to them. Someone who's never been addicted to something, and say, is breaking down specific substances, like I was saying, alcohol. If you've never been addicted to alcohol, you're going to have a hard time explaining to someone how to get off or get rid of that addiction. And yes, most addictions are ultimately caused by chemical imbalance or deficiencies in the body, which is malnutrition. And then also, to add to it, there's possibly parasites involved. So a big part of what is going on with all of that is that you have to realize that you need to learn some things that may not be necessarily the fun things to learn, but they will assist you with your own transition. So let's think about that for a moment. I gotta see if I can get this thing set up here so that I can get my interview with Dr. Daniels properly done. And that's going to be it for the moment. So hang out for a bit, probably about 10 minutes or so. And I'm actually going to show you the beautiful scenery outside while we go through that. All right, so it looks like I'm just going to go ahead and have to end this live stream, and I will have to come back to you after I do a video. I'm just going to go ahead and record my audio with Dr. Daniels because it seems that either I missed something when setting up my technical information on YouTube, or I'm just not figuring out, or like I said, the universe is saying maybe I'm just not supposed to be doing this live at the moment. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this stream off and then do the recording with Dr. Daniels, and then I'll have to edit and go back and post it later with just the audio and some visuals. So thank you for attending and watching. This is Lenita Superb. A rose in perfection shines bright. And check back later today, possibly for the actual interview.